What kind of damage are you seeing out there? I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. The sun's been up for a bit now, but obviously a lot of the damage was clear after the storm blew through midday yesterday with, in some instances, 60, 70 mile an hour winds. So obviously a lot of damage, a lot of power lines down, and some concerns continue about how soon power is going to be turned back on. But I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. In the Springfield area, you've got the power outages reported by City Water, Light, and Power, showing 24,800 customers still without power all throughout Springfield. And you can follow up with their outage map online at outagemap.cwlp.com. So they're making progress on that. But I did get an update here from an official saying that crews from South Bend, Indiana, and New Jersey are heading to help out in Springfield, and you've even got some line construction crews as well. 18 transmission poles snapped. I'll repeat that. 18 transmission poles snapped in Springfield. This is just for City Water, Light, and Power. Haven't seen yet what Ameren has, because Ameren is also across the state reporting over 100,000 people without power. But in Springfield, for CWLP, the word is 18 transmission poles snapped, many on Dirksen and many other distribution poles, and over 100 power lines are down. So what are you seeing out there? 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
East side of Springfield get hit pretty hard.
You're asking me?
Yes.
Well, I mean, Dirksen Parkway, that's the east side of Springfield. You got 100 power lines that are down, 18 transmission poles that are down, mainly on Dirksen Parkway. So, yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I just tuned in. I was just curious. I live out in Chatham. There's a lot of trees down. They do have a lot of the power restored out here now, which is nice. Unfortunately, my house isn't, but so I was just checking to see. I was thinking about doing something tonight on the east side of town, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it up and running, which I kind of doubt. But God bless all those guys that did that.
Yeah, and again, CWLP updating us saying that they've got crews from South Bend, Indiana, and New Jersey on the way to help continue with the cleanup efforts here. And we talked with Springfield Mayor Misty Buscher earlier, and reminder that there's a state of emergency in Springfield. The mayor yesterday issued that state of emergency that lasts through the weekend, and overnight there was a curfew, and that curfew was lifted at 5 o'clock this morning. When we talked with Mayor Buscher earlier this morning, she indicated that they'll assess where they're at later on throughout the day to determine whether or not another curfew needs to be implemented. And that's a way to keep people safe from down power lines and from other debris that may be out there, and to allow for crews to continue working unimpeded. So just keep that in mind. We'll definitely be updating you here on WMAY. 217-629-7970. What kind of damage you seeing? Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Isles Park looks like a bomb basically went off about 8 feet above the ground. Wow. And just took out almost all the trees.
Oh, my gosh. And you're talking
Terrible.
about some trees that have been around for generations.
Oh, absolutely. Healthy trees. I'm not talking carpenter ants or termites. These things were the yellow wood all the way through, and they were about 2.5 feet, 3 feet in diameter. So,
I live in South Sangamon County, and it's you got house after house all up and down the street I live on that have roofs that are going to have to be partially replaced, gutters that are smashed, trees that have completely been just turned over. The square in my town, a huge tree smashed into the pavilion they've got in the square. It's a mess. There's no question.
Yeah, it is. My neighbor works for the city, and he said it's the worst storm damage we've had since the 2007 tornadoes.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Yeah, it's really sad. Hey, what you were talking about earlier, as far as us not being a democracy, we are a what?
A constitutional republic.
Constitutional republic, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I would like to see that the elections changed so that each county gets 2 votes. And then
that's been postulated, at least in Illinois, right? I mean, because
Right.
the way the U.S. Senate counteracts the majority rule out of the U.S. House is a state as small as, say Montana has the same number of Senate votes as a state like New York, which really provides a certain level of balance to ensure that
Right,
the
absolutely.
minority doesn't get run over. Can
Right,
that
but-
be implemented in a state like Illinois, where you've got Chicago leading a lot of the policies? If there was some kind of balance in the Illinois Senate to curtail some of that, I don't know if there's an appetite to try to change the state constitution to that effect, but it's a novel idea that's been put out there.
Yep, absolutely. When a candidate only has to win 4 or 5 counties to win a high level position in the state, that's a problem.
Yeah,
All right, buddy.
I appreciate the call, and be safe out there. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, and I'd love to hear throughout the program what you're seeing out there on the ground when it comes to damage. But there's some other stuff we got to tackle as well. Some more U.S. Supreme Court rulings coming out. Earlier today, we talked about the hearing in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals about Illinois' gun and magazine ban. It's going to be months before we see a ruling out of there, and how that goes to the U.S. Supreme Courts. They're going to be an injunction in place before the January 1st deadline, so we may take your calls there. We'll open things up a bit in the next half hour, but don't forget you've also got the Memorial Health Championship presented by LRS going on right now at Panther Creek Country Club. They still have power out there, and they were spared a lot of the damage that you're seeing in other areas throughout the listening audience. So they got that continuing on. But let's go ahead and take a break for some headlines here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and